Hi, everyone, and welcome to the AI Experience News Roundup. Julian read everything so you don't have to, and I'm here to bring you the most relevant AI stories you probably haven't seen, all in under 10 minutes. Let's dive in.
If you think about what happened from GPT-3 to 3.5 to 4, it just got smarter.
The field became known as artificial intelligence.
Can machines really think?
What if AI is actually standardizing creativity instead of freeing it? In an article from Le Monde, we learn that artificial intelligence is now everywhere in fashion, except where you would expect it the most, in the original idea itself. In practice, brands are already using it at scale, to generate collections, but also to predict trends, with tools that can anticipate, for example, that a certain type of bag will become very popular among 16 to 25-year-olds. And most importantly, to speed up the entire creative process, 3D visualization, fewer physical prototypes, instant variations of colors or shapes. AI makes creation faster, more precise, and more profitable. And that's where it gets interesting. Because despite these gains, the core of the job, intuition, vision, emotion, is still out of reach. Many designers say it clearly. AI does not truly create, it recombines. It improves what already exists, but struggles to produce something truly new or meaningful. And this is exactly what creates tension in the industry. On one side, the operational benefits are obvious. On the other, there is a deep fear, losing the very essence of luxury and creativity. As a result, according to Deloitte, only about 20% of brands plan to integrate AI into their design studios, and many still do it quietly. The real shift may not be what we think. Designers are not the ones who will disappear. Those who refuse to use AI might become invisible, but at the same time, those who rely on it too much could end up creating work without any soul. A real paradox that challenges processes, ideas, and even the very definition of artistic creation. What if your next doctor was first an AI? In an article from TechCrunch, we learn that Amazon is rolling out its AI-powered healthcare assistant directly on its website and app in the United States. In practice, this new assistant, called Health AI, does much more than answer basic questions. It can explain medical results, manage prescriptions, book appointments, and most importantly, act as an entry point into the healthcare system. That's the real story here. Amazon is not just launching a chatbot. It is building an interface between you and healthcare, a layer that filters, interprets, and guides your decisions. And the more access the AI has to your data, with your consent, the more useful it becomes. It can analyze your medical records, understand your symptoms, and connect you directly with healthcare professionals. But this promise immediately raises a key issue: trust. Amazon says that data is handled in a secure, health-compliant environment, encrypted, and used as anonymized patterns. Still, researchers are already warning that conversations could be used to train the models. And this is where it becomes strategic. Healthcare is probably the field where AI brings the most obvious value, but also where the cost of mistakes is the highest. What Amazon is doing here is opening a new front in the AI assistant race, after search, productivity, and coding, by moving directly into healthcare. And in this space, the real question is not just, does it work? It's, am I ready to trust it? Are you ready to be hired by an AI? In an article from The Verge, we learn that job interviews are now being conducted by AI avatars that can ask questions, analyze answers, and evaluate candidates in real time. The goal is clear: process many more applications. Where a human recruiter has to filter candidates, AI can interview almost everyone at the first stage. The promise is greater efficiency and more access. Some companies also make a sensitive claim: reducing bias. By focusing on answers instead of appearance or behavior, these systems are supposed to be fairer. But this promise is fragile. These models are trained on data from the internet, which already contains many biases. So the idea of a neutral AI is widely questioned. And beyond that, there is the actual experience. The test described in the article is telling. Even when the tool works well, the interaction feels mechanical. It lacks spontaneity, and the candidate never really feels understood. What these tools are changing is not just selection, but the nature of the interview itself. It is no longer a meeting, but a structured, standardized, optimized evaluation, with a clear risk, turning a human moment, where you talk about your story, your doubts, your motivations, into a performance where you have to use the right keywords that match what the AI wants to hear. What if even Meta can't keep up with the pace of the AI race? In an article from the New York Times, we learned that Meta has decided to delay the release of its new AI model, even though it is central to the company's strategy. This model, internally called Avocado, was supposed to be a major step forward. It performs better than the previous version, but still falls behind leading models from companies like OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic, especially in key areas like reasoning, coding, and writing. As a result, the launch has been pushed back, likely to May. What stands out here is not just the delay. It's the gap between the resources invested and the results achieved. Meta has spent tens of billions of dollars, hired top talent, built a new dedicated division, and is even considering internally using Google's models to power its own products for now. Even at Meta's scale, AI is still hard to master. And this highlights a reality that is often underestimated. Building a cutting-edge model is not just about investing heavily. It's a long and uncertain process, with progress that doesn't always match the ambitions. At the same time, the pressure is intense. Being at the top of foundational AI models means attracting talent, driving innovation, and controlling future use cases. Falling behind means risking dependence on others. The AI race is not linear. Even the most powerful companies can slow down, adjust their strategy, and lower their expectations, at least for a while. What if AI is slowly weakening our ability to think for ourselves? In an article from The Guardian, we see a growing concern among professors. Artificial intelligence is not just changing how students learn. It may be changing their ability to think. In universities, some professors describe a situation that is already well established. Students are using AI massively, up to 92% according to surveys mentioned, sometimes even for assignments that are meant to be personal or based on real experiences. The result: work that looks perfect, but feels empty. One striking example: a student was asked to describe a painting after visiting a museum. The student never went, and used AI to produce a flawless text, but with no real substance. In fields linked to critical thinking, like literature, philosophy, and the humanities, some professors see this as a direct threat. They notice students struggling to read, analyze, or build an argument without assistance. And in response, teachers are improvising. Some are going back to almost analog methods: memorization, oral exams, handwritten work, in-class discussions. Others try to control AI use or ban it completely. But many admit that control is already slipping away. At the same time, universities are investing heavily in these technologies, often without clear guidelines. We even start to see a dystopian scenario: students using AI to write their assignments, which are then graded by other AI systems. At its core, this debate raises a much bigger question. What is left of learning if the intellectual effort disappears? Some professors are trying to shift the perspective. Instead of banning AI, they use it as a way to make students reflect on their own dependence on technology. Because behind the question of AI, there is something deeper: What does it still mean to learn, to understand, and to think for yourself?
That wraps up this week's AI Roundup. Julian will be back on Sunday with a new interview in English or in French, and I'll return for the next news digest soon. If you're enjoying the show, those 5-star ratings really help. See you soon.